So welcome to Notes 1.1 Part 2. So let's imagine our village was a little bit bigger. Remember we had this village that was 100 people and out of those 100, 30 of them had enough to eat, or 30% of them had enough to eat. Let's pretend our village was 200 people, right? So we'd say 200 people. How many of them don't have enough to eat? Well, if we go back up here, we remember that 70% of the world's population does not have enough to eat. So if we're pretending our village is 200 people, we'd say, okay, let's multiply that by 0.70. So basically you take that 70% and you turn it into a decimal by starting at the end and moving it 2 places to the left. So 70% is 0.70. Right? Now what we're going to do is we're just going to multiply these decimals, right? So 0 times 0, everything in this first row is 0, right? Before you go to the next row, you always lay your egg or add another 0. And then we multiply again. So 7 times 0, 0. 7 times 0, 0. 7 times 2, 14. Now I kind of ran out of spot, so put your 1 right there. Then we add this all up. And for a second, you're like, wait, that answer doesn't make sense. If my village is 200 people, 14,000 people don't have enough to eat? No, because we forgot that when we multiply decimals, we must make sure that we count our decimals. So here I have 2 numbers behind my decimal place, so that means in my answer I should have 2 numbers behind my decimal place. So I swoop once, twice, and so my answer is that 140 out of 200 people don't have enough to eat. It's a lot of people that are starving, right? All right, let's pretend our village is a little bit bigger. All right, let's pretend it's 300. All right, so we say 300, and then we do times 0.70 again, because remember it's 70% of the world doesn't have enough to eat, right? And then we do the multiplication. So right off the bat, we should recognize, hey, again, we got 2 numbers behind our decimal place, so we're gonna have to swoop twice in the end, and let's multiply. So we say 0 times 0, 0 times 0, 0 times 3, lay your egg before you start a new line, and then 7 times 0, 7 times 0, 7 times 3, 21. So we 2 and 1. And we add up 0, 0, 0, 1, 2. And then remember we swoop our decimal 2 times because in the problem itself there were 2 digits behind the decimal place. So once, twice. So if our village was 300 people, 210 out of 300 people would not have enough to eat. I mean, if you think about that, and you think about all the wonderful meals we get during the day at CJA, right? We get breakfast, we get lunch, we get a snack. Like, we are absolutely super lucky, because if 70% of the world is not getting enough to eat, we're part of the 30% that are getting enough to eat. So we're not in this group of 210 people not getting enough to eat. We're in the group of almost 90 people in this case that is getting enough to eat. It's very fortunate. You're going to try number 3 here on Ed Puzzle. So basically you're going to set it up 500 times 0.70, right? All right, on the back side. So let's consider this. So we got this whole idea of hunger and this idea of limited resources, right? But wait a second. It says the UN, which is called the United Nations, right? They're this world organization that can get a lot of data for us. They estimate, not exactly, but it estimates ending world hunger each year would cost $30 billion. Billion. So if you go up to here, this is a place values chart, $30 billion. So let's see how many zeros that would be. That would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. This would be $30 billion. That's a pretty big check right there. So ending world hunger since 2003 would have cost $330 billion, right? So all they did there is took $30 billion, and the difference between 2014 and 2003 when this study was said, they just said, all right, times 11. That's how they got the 330. So let's update this number, right? Since we're in the year 2017, we have to add 3 more years of this 30 billion. So let's think 30 billion times 3 more years. That costs 90 billion, right? So let's add 90 billion to the 330 billion that they said it was already going to cost. So ending world hunger, if we started in 2003 and we went until today, ending world hunger would cost us, $420 billion. That seems like a lot of money, right? It seems like we don't have enough money to afford that. But now consider this. The Fortune 500, that's these big corporations like Walmart and ExxonMobil, which is gas, and Volkswagen, they make cars, Toyota, they make cars, right? They make billions of dollars every single year. In fact, Walmart, they made $482 billion. They could solve world hunger all by themselves, right? State Grid, $330 billion. China National Petroleum, $299 billion. And we can go on with just the top 8 out of the top 10 companies in the world. And we're always saying, well, wait a second, we have all these limited resources, right? So there's no way we could solve world hunger for everybody. But look, these companies are making billions and billions of dollars, right? We could solve world hunger. What I want you to do is I want you to try and add this up right now and see how much just the top 8 companies in the world make together. So hopefully if you've done this, you've gotten $2 trillion, excuse me, $2 trillion. $2,397 billion, followed by 3 zeros, followed by 3 more zeros. We could easily solve world hunger. So wait, you got to ask yourself, how does this make you feel? People are out here starving, and the answer is because of limited resources? But wait a second, we have trillions of dollars, and it only costs billions of dollars. Think about that. Is that socially just? Is that fair? I want you to go ahead and respond to that right here on their paper. And then understand that when we have a situation that is economically unfair, right, we call it inequity. We're going to learn more about this next week and continue to talk about how numbers can sometimes cause conflict, right? Because you should not feel happy about this. You should be angered and you should say, hey, this is wrong. This is not okay. That's the end of part 2.